Maitreya said, the great sage Kashyapa thus addressed his wife, who was trembling because of fear that her husband was offended. She understood that he had been dissuaded from his daily duties of offering evening prayers, yet she desired the welfare of her children in the world. Now, so then text 38. Kashyapa Uvacha Apratyat Yad Atmanas Te Dosam Mohur Tikad Uta Man Nidestat Tika Vena Devana Chati Hevanat. The learned Kashyapa said, because of your minds being polluted, because of defilement of a particular time, because of your negligence, my direction, and because of your being apathetic to the demigods, everything was inauspicious. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. The conditions for having good progeny in society are that the husband should be disciplined in religious regular discipline, and the wife should be faithful to the husband. In Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 11th verse, it is said that sexual intercourse, according to religious principles, is a representation of discipline. Before engaging in sexual intercourse, both the husband and the wife must consider their mental condition, the particular time, the husband's direction, and obedience to the demigods. According to Vedic society, there is a suitable, auspicious time for sex life, which is called the time for Garbhodana. Deity neglected all the principles of spiritual injunction, and therefore, although she was very anxious for auspicious children, she was informed that her children would not be worthy to be sons of a Brahmin. There is a clear indication herein that a Brahmana's son is not always a groom. Personalities like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu were actually born of Brahmanas, but they were not accepted as Brahmanas because their fathers did not follow the regulative principles for their birth. Such children are called demons or Rakshasas. There were only one or two Rakshasas in the previous ages due to negligence of the disciplinary methods. But during the age of Kali, there is no discipline in sex life. How then can one expect good children? Certainly, unwanted children cannot be a source of happiness in society. But through the Krishna consciousness movement, they can be raised to the human standard by chanting the holy name of God. That is the unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Well, this is the good news. After hearing a lot of bad news, and the main point here is that Kashyapa is attracted to his wife's body, and because of that, he was not able, although he knew exactly what the right thing to do is, but because he was not able to control himself, he succumbed to the temptation, illicit activity. So you could try and blame the wife for everything, but it's also his fault. He should know better. He should have more personal spiritual strength to avoid breaking the regulative principles. So ultimately, he's at fault. But Obviously, he did not have the strength to uh, stop his wife from enticing him, and eventually he fell down also. So here it says the conditions for having good progeny, meaning children, in society are that the husband should be disciplined in religious and regulative principles, and the wife should be faithful to the husband. Well, faithful to the husband and follow him. In Bhagavad Gita 7.11, it is said that sexual intercourse, according to religious principles, is a representation of Krishna consciousness. Before engaging in sexual intercourse, both the husband and wife must consider their mental condition, the particular time, the husband's direction, and obedience to the demigods. Well, most people today don't do that, what was just said. They just follow their, let's call it, animal instincts, rather than being able to follow the religious principles. And it says here that according to religious, it is said that sexual intercourse, according to religious principles, is a representation of Krishna consciousness. So if someone doesn't follow the religious principles, then it's not a representation of Krishna consciousness, but it is abominable. And then another point is before engaging in sexual intercourse, both the husband and the wife must consider their mental condition. Now, why does it say that? Why is it so important that their mental condition be, let's say, examined? Well, according to the mental condition, the child of the husband and wife, the child will be born. Or in other words, according to the mental condition of the husband and wife, a suitable child that fits their mental condition will be put into the womb of the wife. So, if their mental condition is lust, then you get a child that is not going to be very, let's say, spiritually inclined. Of course, that can change through proper training. But if you follow, or if everybody follows the rules and regulations, as are being set down here, then why should you start zero? And why should you start minus? Why not start plus by following the regulative principles, and then Krishna will put a child of good, let's say, nature in the womb, and right from the beginning of life, the child is Krishna conscious. Now, if parents don't follow the regulative principles properly for having a child, then the child is going to be born with bad qualities, and then it's an upward, let's say, effort to overcome those bad qualities by a lot of training and praying and so forth. So we see that everything is scientific in Krishna consciousness. And almost everything is not really scientific in the material world. It's based on lust and greed and anger in the material world. Whereas Krishna consciousness is based on self-control and based on following regulative principles. So this tension is there in life. Are we going to follow regulative principles or not follow them? And if we don't follow them, then we get entangled in karma. And it's always an uphill endeavor. If we follow them, See, it's much easier in life to follow the rules and regulations of spiritual life than not to follow them. When you don't follow them, you have a lot of difficulty. If you follow them, life is very easy and nice, and you achieve good results, such as good children, such as good wife, such as good husband, and so forth. So, what is the message here? We should follow Krishna consciousness and avoid all the complications and let's say unhappy things that happen when you break the regulative principles. So why, if you're born in a family of devotees, then it's much better to that the parents protect the children from being influenced by bad people and bad teachers and bad environment and bad thoughts and bad movies and so forth, so that the child doesn't get corrupted. Once the child is corrupted, it's always very difficult to bring them back. It's possible, but it's very difficult. So all these things have to be understood before a man and a woman who get married try to have children. If all this is not explained to them, and they don't actually, read the scriptures as we have it here, and also hear the scriptures spoken by genuine devotees, they make a lot of mistakes, and it can be catastrophic in their life. So we have to be very, very careful what we do. Most people, they don't really think very carefully. They don't know. They've never been educated properly. And they end up in very difficult situations with their children. Sometimes children are born autistic. And by the way, that happens a lot now, a lot more than before. As far as autistic children goes, previously, let's say 50, 60 years ago, 1 in 100 was autistic. Now, it's 1 in 10 is autistic. Why don't you look that up, see if that's correct. So why is there a serious increase in autistic children? You should ask that question. It's because husband and wife are not following regulative principles.
It says, as of 2023, it's 1 in 36.
Okay, 1 in 36.
And it was before, just 2 years before, it was 1 in 44.
Okay, but before that, it was.
Yeah, it was. This is kind of the chart.
Yeah. So it's increasing. 1 in 36 children is autistic, which means you have a child, they look like they're normal, but very quickly you'll see that they're not. And now you're stuck with an autistic child, and the rest of your life and their life is more or less miserable.
Yeah, so
it depends on the degree of autism.
So in the year 2000, it was 1 in 150.
Okay, 1 in 150 in the year 2000.
Now it's 1 in 36.
And now it's 1 in 36 births. Wow, tremendous increase. And now we have to ask why. Why has it increased so much? Do they say why it's increased so much? The so-called scientists. Whenever you use the word so-called, it means that they're not really what they're supposed to be. Does it say anything?
I'm just seeing that they're only summarizing the statistics.
And they don't really know why.
Yeah.
They don't really know. And the reason for that is that they don't follow. Well, let's say they don't read the Shastras. So it's explained right here why. It says that Maitreya said the great sage Kashyapa.
If you want me to just read a
go
little
ahead.
bit on that.
Go ahead.
So the causes and risk factors. They say autism has strong genetic component, as demonstrated by some twin studies. The child has an approximately 19% higher risk of autism if older sibling is also on the spectrum. A growing body of evidence investigating maternal infection, drug use, and age. There is also evidence linking advanced parental age to an increased risk as potential causes of autism. Health complications during pregnancy and in childbirth may raise a child's autism risk significantly. A baby experiencing complications both during and before birth may have 44% increased risk of autism. Toxins in the environment, especially heavy metals like mercury and lead, have also been associated with an increased risk, but most of these studies have various methodological limitations.
What meditation? The limitation.
Methodological.
Methodological. In other words, they don't really know.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't really. They're just guessing, and that's what's going on. But however, if you read the Shastras, you'll know that it's because people are not following any regulative principles. They're having children like without any spiritual understanding about how that should be done. That's why we're reading this. It's showing the correct way and the incorrect way to give birth to children. And it all depends on the consciousness of the husband and the wife. It's not like the physical thing, well, you have to have a body that's like this and so forth, and take vitamins and minerals and so forth. It's what's in their minds. It's what's in their mental state at the moment of copulation in order which will determine the type of child they have. Of course, all this is not science according to the scientists. Well, it's because there are things they don't understand. So when there's something they don't understand, they say, oh, it's not scientific.
I mean, another argument they also make is that now that the testing is more accessible, more people are testing, and that's why the count increases.
That's why what?
That's why
the number of autistic people.
Apparently it probably was there, but now more access to the autism testing may have increased the numbers.
That's a phony statement. Well, no, okay. But the main point is that it's due to the consciousness of the parents at the moment of
conception.
Connection that they had. So, and that's what's being explained here. Okay, we'll start text 36. Let him be pleased with us, since he is my brother-in-law.
36.
Okay, 37.
We're in 38, Maharaj.
Oh, 38. Sorry.
And
Kashyapa Uvacha, okay. The learned Kashyapa said, because of your minds being polluted, because of defilement of a particular type, because of your negligence of my directions, and because of your being apathetic to the demigods, everything was inauspicious. Whoa, blame everything on the wife. About this, Kashyapa, why don't you have the power and the determination to not succumb to your wife? That should be taken into consideration also. But anyway, Kashyapa is blaming it on his wife. Purport by his divine grace, we see Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The conditions for having good progeny, meaning good children, in society are that the husband should be disciplined in religious and regulative principles, and the wife should be faithful to the husband. Well, that means she should follow the husband's good advice. In Bhagavad Gita 7.11, it is said that sexual intercourse, according to religious principles, is a representation of Krishna consciousness. Before engaging in sexual intercourse, both the husband and the wife must consider their mental condition, the particular time, the husband's direction, and obedience to the demigods. According to Vedic society, there is a suitable, auspicious time for sex life, which is called the time for Garbhodana. Garbhodana means the time where you should engage in sex to have a child. Diti neglected all the principles of scriptural injunction, and therefore, although she was very anxious for auspicious children, she was informed that her children would not be worthy to be sons of a Brahmin. There is a clear indication herein that a Brahmana's son is not always a Brahmin. Personalities like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu were actually born of Brahmanas, but they were not accepted as Brahmins because their fathers did not follow the regulative principles for their birth. So that's good. I mean, because now on one hand, they're blaming the wife, and now they're blaming the husband. Such children are called demons or rakshasas. There were only one or two rakshasas in the previous ages due to negligence of the disciplinary methods. But during the age of Kali, there is no discipline in sex life. How then can one expect good children? Certainly, unwanted children cannot be a source of happiness in society. But through the Krishna consciousness movement, they can be raised to the human standard by chanting the holy name of God. That is the unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. God, very nice statements by Prabhupada here. So, what is our takeaways from this? That is, that the quality of the child will be determined by the consciousness of the parents at the moment of conception, and also some other principles, but that is the most important thing. What are they thinking at the moment of conception? Are they in the mode of goodness? Are they in the mode of passion? Or are they in the mode of ignorance? That will determine what kind of child will be put into the womb of the mother. And all this is being observed. Obviously, it's being observed by the demigods. And when people deviate from what is correct, they get children that are not, let's say, Krishna conscious. Okay, so, and therefore Prabhupada says, there were only one or two rakshasas in the previous ages due to negligence of the disciplinary methods. But during the age of Kali, there's no discipline in sex life. How then can one expect good children? Certainly, unwanted children cannot be a source of happiness in society. But through the Krishna consciousness movement, they can be raised to the human standard by chanting the holy name of God. That is the unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. Well, almost everyone in Kali Yuga, or virtually everyone in Kali Yuga, is going to break the regulative principles for having children. But by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, there's a saving grace. If the children are taught to chant Hare Krishna, and they're taught by the example of the parents, who should be chanting Hare Krishna also, then it's possible that the fact that all the rules and regulations for having children are not followed, the child will turn out to be a good child. By training. Training means that you protect the child from bad association, and you do everything so that the child grows up in a good spiritual atmosphere and culture. And that way, they're not contaminated by the association of bad, let's say, education, bad association with other children, and so forth. So that requires a lot of attention, and you have to have the, let's say, determination to protect your child from that bad association. Everything goes wrong when there's bad association. So, and that happens usually by the time the child is, in their teenage life, that bad association becomes very, very highly intense. And there's with a lot of peer pressure to break principles of Krishna consciousness. But it also begins at the moment of conception of husband and wife, when their consciousness is not properly situated. Then that influences the type of child that Krishna is going to place into the womb of the wife. So Prabhupada says here, by the way, whenever there is very, very severe weather, like there's like a hurricane, or there's like an earthquake, that means a demon is born. In ancient times, there were not many demons that were born. So here, in the time of Ravana, Kamsa, and so forth, there were just a few births of demons. Now, my God, there's so many demons being born, and you can see the weather is a symbol of it, because when there's severe weather, earthquakes, severe raining, flooding, and severe, let's say, upheavals of weather, that means demons are born. And we're seeing that the weather, there's problems with weather all the time. It means a lot of demons are being born. Now, they can be trained in proper, let's say, proper way by good parents to mitigate their bad, let's say, karma. But today, that type of good rearing of children is not so much present. And so there are a lot of children who grow up because of their bad karma and cause havoc in society. There was one boy 5-6 years ago, for his birthday, his 15th birthday, his parents bought him a gun. And the day after he got the gun, he went and killed somebody. Why would they give a 15-year-old boy a gun with live ammunition? You have to be crazy to do that, right? But they did that, and the next thing, he went and killed someone. And now, not only the boy is in jail, the parents are in jail also, because Why would they do that? To give a 15-year-old boy gun and live ammunition? So there's a lot of crazy things happening today, unfortunately. There's a lot of upheaval of weather. When I say upheaval of weather, there's a lot of bad weather also. Hurricanes and floods and tsunamis and all these different things. That means that demons are being born. That's the symptom of the birth of demons. All that really bad weather. Whereas before, there was good weather. When I say before, when people were following Sanatana Dharma, there was always good weather and peace. But now there's bad weather. There's war. There's contraception. There is or children are being killed by their parents. In the form of not only contraception, but what do you call them? They have an abortion. These are all sinful things. When you abort your own child, who does a thing like that? That only demons would do things like that. And one time I met this one lady in some kind of program, Krishna Conscious program. And unfortunately, I was sitting next to her at a table, having prasadam. And then the discussion sort of came to the subject of contraception. And she very proudly said that she had aborted at least 5 children. And she was proud that she did it. I don't know what she was doing in the Hare Krishna program there. But anyway, probably her son was devotee and she came. So this is something that has become a part of the culture. That, having abortion is not a bad thing. People think it's a good thing. Actually, it affects the consciousness of the woman a lot, because basically, what are they doing? They're killing their own child. Right? And that's a very, very sinful thing. If you don't want a child, then don't engage in illicit activities. That's all very simple. But no, they want to engage in illicit activities at the same time, not have a child. So it's not, it's a losing proposition all around. Okay. And here it says, there were only 1 or 2 Rakshasas in the previous ages due to negligence of disciplinary methods. But during the age of Kali, there is no discipline in sex life. How then can one expect good children? Certainly, unwanted children cannot be a source of happiness in society. But through the Krishna consciousness movement, they can be raised to the human standard by chanting the holy name of God. That is the unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. Well, what's our takeaway here? Even from the earliest time in the child's life, they should be taught to chant Hare Krishna. That way, they might be able to continue chanting throughout their whole life. What you do in your early life will determine what you'll do later on. So if a child is trained to chant Hare Krishna and follow regulative principles right from the beginning of their life, then they will avoid so many problems in life and not be a nuisance to society. And here Prabhupada says, but during the age of Kali, there is no discipline in sex life. How then Can one expect good children? Certainly, unwanted children cannot be a source of happiness in society. But through the Krishna consciousness movement, they can be raised to the human standard by chanting the holy name of God. That is the unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. Very profound statements Prabhupada is making here in this purport. Okay, so text 39. Oh, one haughty one, haughty. I mean, puffed up person, haughty. Haughty. Yeah, oh, haughty one. You will have two contemptuous sons. Contemptuous means they don't listen to good advice. They misbehave. You will have two contemptuous sons born of your condemned womb. Whoa, what a statement. A condemned womb. And that means that whatever comes out of that womb is bad. Unlucky woman, you will cause constant lamentation to all the three worlds. This is Kashyapa Muni talking to his wife. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Contemptuous sons. I mean, that means children that don't listen to the good advice of their parents. Contemptuous sons are born, once you look up the word contemptuous, CONTEMPTUOUS. Contemptuous sons are born of the condemned womb of their mother. That's a really serious statement. Condemned womb of their mother. Why is it condemned? Because it has engaged in illicit sex. In Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, 40th verse, it is said, when there is deliberate negligence of the regulative principles of religious life, the women as a class become polluted. And as a result, there are unwanted children. This is especially true for boys. If the mother is not good, there cannot be good sons. The learned Kashyapa could foresee the character of the sons who would be born of the condemned womb of Diti. Now, the womb is where the child grows, is developed. So if it's condemned, that means it's destined to be bad. Let's put it like that. Let's see. You were going to look up contemptuous, right? Yeah. What does it say?
Contemptuous is scornful, and a lot of similar words for it might be scornful, disdainful, disrespectful, insulting, insolent, full of contempt, derisively, derisive, mocking, sneering, jeering, scoffing, taunting, withering, scathing, snide,
All bad words. All bad words.
supercilious, arrogant, cavalier, high and mighty, imperious, proud, vain, sniffy, snotty, on one's high horse,
Contemptuous.
Being disobedient or disrespectful.
Yeah. All bad qualities. So it's in this case, it's saying that it's the fault of the parents, that because they didn't follow regulated principles to have a child. And therefore, a child of bad qualities is put into the womb of the mother by Yamaraj. Why? Because they didn't follow regulative principles. So therefore, if you want to have a peaceful, happy life, successful life, follow the regulative principles, and you can avoid most problems of life. And it says, there's a unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. What is that? That is, that unwanted children cannot be a source of happiness in society. Who are unwanted children? Children that were born out of lusty, population, and they're not really wanted, so they're not given the attention, the love, and the education that they should have to be good people. And so it says here, but during the age of Kali, that means the time that we're in now, there's no discipline in sex life. How then can one expect good children? Certainly, unwanted children cannot be a source of happiness in society, but through the Krishna consciousness movement, they can be raised to a human standard by chanting the holy name of God. That is the unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to human society. So every time you see very bad weather, there's hurricanes, and there's flooding, and there's famine, all this type of bad things that are happening, that means that the demons are being born. So, if you don't want demons to be born, then if we don't want demons to be born, then we should correct our behavior and just follow Krishna consciousness. Then demons will not be born in the womb of mothers, because the practice of Krishna consciousness, which is functioning in the mode of goodness and even better transcendental goodness, so the children are born with the right consciousness of the parents, by the right consciousness of the parents, and they're good. But people just engage in illicit sex. Children are going to be born with very bad qualities, and they can be trained, but it's an uphill endeavor, and sometimes they're not trained. Mostly in this society, and they're not trained properly because of movies, because of books, because of bad association and so forth. So you can't expect the society to be peaceful and people will be happy and do constructive things. There'll be a lot of destruction. So that's what happens in war. Things are destroyed. Right? You win wars by completely destroying things, houses and cars and buildings and all kinds of things that get destroyed, blown up with bombs. And they have more and more lethal bombs now. They can kill more people faster and blow up buildings and just completely destroy all the good things that, well, let's say all good things that are built up in society. In a war, all those things are destroyed. And the people also, they're killed by all those lethal weapons. And the weapons are getting more and more lethal, which is a very dangerous thing. And people are happy, they inaugurate lethal weapons. And then they say, oh, well, this can blow up, much more buildings at one time than ever before. And what they're not saying is this can kill more people faster. That's what their new inventions are more lethal weapons that can kill more people faster and blow up more buildings faster. Crazy. You go to these military uh, military exhibits where they show you all kinds of weaponry in the past and present, and they're all for killing people and blowing up buildings, things like that. So we see how terrible the culture has become. And people are happy to see, more and more lethal weapons, because that means that their country will win wars by blowing up and killing other countries. So it's a very, very nasty time today in this culture. Okay, so 39, right? Oh, Hoti one. That means you all, puffed up person. One is very proud. You will have two contemptuous sons. Contemptuous means they have bad behavior. They don't listen to good advice, and they ignore, the advice of sadhus and so forth. So you will have two contemptuous sons born of your condemned womb. Why is it condemned? Because it has become contaminated by illicit sex. Unlucky woman, they will cause constant lamentation to all the three worlds. Well, that means they're going to be big time demons. Purport, contemptuous sons. So you looked up that word, contemptuous?
Being
Yeah,
disobedient.
they don't listen, right?
Disobedient or disrespect.
Yeah, disobedient or disrespect. Contemptuous sons are born of the condemned womb of their mother. That means the womb of the mother has been condemned or contaminated by illicit sex. In Bhagavatam, well, there's illicit sex. There's also using contraceptives. It's another way to condemn the womb. Condemn means that it's guaranteed to be bad. Guaranteed to be bad. In Bhagavad Gita 1.40, first chapter, 40th verse, it is said, when there is deliberate negligence of the regulative principles of religious life, the women as a class become polluted, and as a result of their unwanted children. And as a result, there are unwanted children. This is especially true for boys. If the mother is not good, there cannot be good boys. The learned Kashyapa could foresee the character of the sons who would be born of the condemned womb of Diti. The womb was condemned because of the mothers being too sexually inclined and thus transgressing all the laws and injunctions of the scriptures. In a society where such women are predominant, one should not expect good children. Okay, so women should be protected, and they should be, let's say, honored for being chaste. So chaste means they don't engage in illicit activities. But for them not to engage in illicit activities, they have to be protected. They can't be, let's say, in an atmosphere of sinfulness. They have to be in an atmosphere of goodness and spirituality. So women will happily follow a good husband who follows the principles of Sanatana Dharma, because it's a life of peace and happiness. They will also be trained to follow demons. And there are some women they're always attracted to demons. Why? Because they have been not protected by their parents, and therefore they develop, they become exploited by bad men, and they become addicted to bad habits. Therefore, women should be protected by their father when they're born and when they're young. And then when they get married, they should be protected by their husband. And when they're older, they should be protected by their eldest sons, by their mature sons. That way, a woman should always be protected. Let's put it like that. Always be protected. Why? Because when women are not protected, they can be exploited by bad men who have bad desires, who want to exploit women and use them for sense gratification. So you see this, when people go to a bar and there are women in the bar and there's men that come there and they start talking, hello, who are you? How are you? Blah, blah, blah. Would you like a drink? Yes. Started drinking some liquor and talked nonsense for some time. And Prabhupada, one day, he was talking about the earlier time when he was taking a train ride, from Calcutta somewhere. And the trains at that time, they had these rooms where people would sit in the train facing each other. They still have that in some places. So, when you're facing other people in a small space, you end up talking usually. So Prabhupada was on one side, and then there was this man and woman on the other side. The man and women did not know each other, but they started talking, and eventually they started talking about Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was a Jewish psychologist, and he was always talking about sex. But he coined different words like id and other things like that were all about sex. And so these two, this man and this woman who didn't know each other, they started talking, and they were, pseudo intellectuals. Pseudo means false intellectuals. And then they started talking about sex, but using the vocabulary of Freud, right? And Prabhupada was, sitting there trying to not to be influenced by what they were saying. And basically, after discussing Freudian philosophy, then the man said, "Well, when we get to our destination, would you like to have dinner with me?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to have dinner with you." Meaning, they were going to start dating and engage eventually in illicit sex. So that's what's happened in modern society. People talk about Freudian philosophy. Well, Freud was a nonsense. Freud was a fraud himself, and he's always talking about sex, and he was like an expert. Prabhupada says you don't have to be educated to know about sex. I mean, you learn it more or less instinctively. But nowadays, you have people that their whole life they're studying sex and teaching in schools. So that was Freud. He was one of those people who was always talking about sexuality. They have doctors, experts on sexuality. So, the best thing is, if you follow regulative principles, you don't have to have sex doctors. You don't have to have books about sex. There's so many books about sex. You go to the library, so many books And these are things that one learns instinctively. And if they follow, and see, you don't have to buy any books about sex. Prabhupada explains what is licit and illicit sex in his books. So he's giving all the knowledge in his books. And most of the information in the Srimad Bhagavatam is about man-woman relationships. I would say, at least three quarters of the Srimad Bhagavatam is about the relationship between men and women. Why? Because this is what is most commonly misunderstood, and it destroys people's lives because they don't know what is the proper relationship of man and woman. And therefore they get misled and it ruins their lives. You hear all the time, man married, and he and his wife have been married, let's say 10 years, and they have 3 children, and then they get a divorce, and then the husband goes crazy, kills his wife and his children, and commits suicide. Have you ever seen anything like that in the books? I mean, in the papers, newspapers? Yes, it's happening almost every day, or at least every month. You'll see one man that goes berserk and kills his wife because they got a divorce or something, or they're arguing, and kills the children also, and then kills himself. That means that someone is very, very frustrated to the point where they're going crazy and they start doing things that are self-destructive. And why? It's always based on illicit sex. Almost every time it's based on illicit sex. So we see how, unless we learn how to live a Krishna conscious life, it's possible that we become controlled by the mode of lust, anger, and greed. And it'll ruin our life. Okay, so when there is deliberate negligence of the regulative principles of religious life, the women as a class become polluted, and as a result, there are unwanted children. This is especially true for boys. If the mother is not good, there cannot be good sons. The learned Kashyapa could foresee the character of the sons who would be born of the condemned womb of Diti. The womb was condemned because of the mothers being too sexually inclined and thus transgressing all the laws and injunctions of the scriptures. In a society where such women are predominant, one should not expect good children. Okay. I'll give her time, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes. Probably. 1 second. There it is.
So for the part where you said it's Kashyap's fault, so before I thought it was the wife's fault, like all of the fault was on the wife, because isn't it because the Kashyapa was chanting Hare Krishna when he was doing the wrong activities, but his wife was not, and she was the person who was actually asked him and was kind of the source of it. And I heard they were in the Bhagavatam they said that Kashyapa was chanting Hare Krishna or some
meditating.
Yeah.
Very good question. Kashyapa was not able to instruct his wife to give up bad desires because he was physically attracted to his wife. And that means that he was weak spiritually. although he was very good at meditation, and he was for the most part, a very good person. But as soon as someone becomes attracted by the opposite sex, all their good qualities become contaminated or corrupted. So, therefore, the Shepa, who was a good person, he was regulated, he was meditating and so forth. But when he became improperly attracted to his wife, then he broke the principles of Krishna consciousness, and he fell down. And it's his fault because he's supposed to protect his wife, but instead of protecting his wife, he, in a sense, contaminated her womb with his lusty behavior. Now, some people will say, well, it's all the wife's fault. But no, it's the husband's fault because he should be strong enough to control his wife and to insist that they not break the principles. But he was not strong enough. And why? Because he was not interested in his wife's soul. He became interested in her body. So what we do in Krishna consciousness is develop soul-to-soul relationships, whereas in material life, mostly it's body-to-body relationships. And when one body is not attractive anymore, there's or both bodies are not attractive, and they have divorce. So it's very important to hear these narratives, they're not fictional. They're real. These things have actually happened in the past, and we're reading about it. And most of the, at least 3/4 or more of the Bhagavatam is about man-woman relationships. Why? Because the man-woman relationship, if not properly done, causes havoc in society. And we see that today. I mean, you pick up the newspaper and you read about crazy things that men and women are doing, and it's all based on illicit sex and sinful activities. And therefore, most of the Bhagavatam is about man-women relationship and how they can be successful, and how when they go off the rails, they perform sinful activities, and then there are consequences of the sinful activities. So here we're reading about consequences of the pregnancy of Diti in the evening. That's the part of the Bhagavatam that we're reading now. So what we don't understand is there's always a time and there's always a right way and wrong way for engaging in activities, and especially sex. There's a time for it, and there's a right way, and there's a wrong way. And the consequences are very severe if we keep doing the things in the wrong way. Whether it's eating, whether it's sleeping, whether it's engaging in sex, every time you do things in the wrong way, you suffer. Now you might say, eating? What do you mean eating? Yeah, if you eat meat and other, forbidden things, you can ruin your life. So everything has a proper way and a wrong way, and we have to learn that. And the sooner we learn it, the better. So there's a proper way to eat, there's a proper way to sleep, there's a proper way to bathe, there's a proper way to do everything, and there's an improper way. So we have to learn both. Why? Because when you know what is the improper way, you will avoid doing things improperly. And when you know what is the proper way, then you will always trying to do everything properly. But if you're not educated at all in what is proper and what is improper, then you just make a mess of your life very quickly. Very quickly, kids can make all kinds of mistakes early on in their life, and that's why there's so much suicide amongst kids, because they ruin their life by doing improper things early on. So it's very important, especially in the most formative years, let's say from 12 years old to 20, to avoid illicit activities. Very important, because that means you have a good chance of being able to control your mind and senses the rest of your life. So those formative years, let's say 12 to 20, are the most important years in the life of a child, either a boy or girl, because whatever they do in those years will determine what they'll probably do the rest of their life. Okay, so thank you very much.
Any other questions online?
Do you have another question? Okay, what is it?
So, if Kashyapa was attracted to his wife, why did he get angry at his wife after? If you knew it was the wrong thing to do.
Well, it's always good to blame the other person. He should have been strong enough not to succumb to his wife's weaknesses. But he wasn't, because he wasn't, let's say, there's different types of relationships. There's body-to-body relationships, and there's also soul-to-soul relationships. So he developed a body-to-body relationship with his wife, and he fell down. If you have a soul-to-soul relationship, where you actually follow Krishna's instructions, husband and wife together, they don't fall down. So, let's say the husband has wants a soul-to-soul relationship, and the wife doesn't, or vice versa. The wife wants a soul-to-soul relationship, and the husband doesn't. Well, there's going to be a problem. There are going to be a lot of problems in their life. So, who you marry is going to determine, and who you are is going to determine if you're going to be happy or miserable in life. So if you are a devotee and you follow the rules and regulations, and you marry someone, a woman who's a devotee, and who wants to follow, and who does follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, it'll be a happy marriage, guaranteed. And you live together peacefully. But if there's one who is not happy being Krishna conscious, and the other one is, there's going to be problems in the marriage. So it's better not to get married if you're going to marry someone, if you're not wanting to be Krishna conscious, or if you are wanting to be Krishna conscious, but you marry someone who's not wanting to be Krishna conscious, then it's going to be all misery in your life. Okay? Hare Krishna. So we will stop right there. Thank you very much. All words to Srila Prabhupada
Ki Jai.